Hey there, folks. This is Dr. David checking in. It's about 15 minutes before 4 p.m. Pacific time. I'm doing my pregame warm-up, as I like to call it. This is where I kind of log on ahead of time and just kind of give you guys a little heads up about what's coming up. Our webinars, especially if you're brand new to Planet David, our webinars tend to run a little bit on the long side. So you're probably looking at upwards of 3 hours for this webinar. You're going to want to need things to write on, to write with, some caffeinated and oxytocin triggering substances, things that will allow you to retain the information and actually you put it to good use. I'm going to give you my little, what's the word I'm looking for? My disclaimer. If politically incorrect language, colorful metaphors, swearing, or the word boobies offends you, probably not the best use of the next 3 hours. But for those of you who are familiar with how we do things at Planet David, we're going to give you some hardcore, real world stuff you can take out into the world and use right away. And of course, the better the questions, the better the seminar. There's 3 ways you can get your questions answered on this webinar tonight. The first one is obviously type it in the chat. We are live streaming this from my Jet webinar platform through Zoom to YouTube. So there's a little bit of a delay because I've got 3 platforms working here. So you will get a delay between when I talk on the video platform versus when I actually speak it. However, the chat function from YouTube is in real time. So if you type a question in the chat, there's a good chance I will see it. Now, we get lots of people on our chat. So a lot of times you'll type a question and it'll fly by so fast I'll miss it. If that's the case, just keep typing it. If it's relevant to the point in the webinar where we are at, I will answer it. If it's not relevant, I will defer to one of our other question answering processes. So those other 2 processes are, if you are a veteran of Planet David and you see a question that I did not answer, that you have a direct experience with using the technologies we teach in Planet David, I invite you to reach out to that person asking the question and answer their question for them. Okay, that's a favor that I ask all my veterans to do for me. The third way to get your question answered, if that's not enough, if you want a personal response from me, at the end of this webinar, when the replay goes live on our YouTube channel, if you type your question in the comments section below this video replay, I make it a practice of going back over our comments 3, 4, 5 times a day, every day. And I do my best to answer every single question that I find in the comments section. Okay, so if you do want a question, you have a question that I did not answer during the webinar, type it in the comment section below this video, and you will get your question answered, usually within a day or 2, if it's relevant. So that being said, let's see, what else do I have? That's about all for now. We've got about 13 minutes till it's go time. I will be repeating this to my Jet webinar and Zoom audiences. And if you like what we do here at Planet David, please like and share, let people know. We do have a strict anti-troll policy. I usually have 2 or 3 people manning our chats playing whack-a-troll. There is a 0 tolerance rule. So if we even think that you're going to post something that's a little bit less than positive or distracting, we'll just time you out or hide you from the channel. That's just how we do things. We try to make this a safe space for people to come and learn and practice, but every now and then you get people who just want all the negative attention they can create. So that being said, this is Dr. David. I'll be seeing you full bore in about 12 minutes. God bless. Take care. All right, folks, 5 minutes to go. And then life gets interesting. Hello, 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 my friends. This is Dr. David Snyder, and welcome to Secrets of Face Reading for Fun and Profit. For the next 2.5 to 3 hours, I'm going to be your host as we take an amazing journey through the art and science of Chinese face reading, both old and new. You're going to learn how to discover how to speed read people in a very short time to discover how they think and behave, how they make decisions, how to influence people and persuade them in the most ethical and easy way possible, how to measure sexual and romantic compatibility, their emotional history, and so much more. Now, before we get into the content for tonight, I do have some basic things that I like to go over every chance I get. That first and foremost is my basic disclaimer. If politically incorrect language, colorful metaphors, swearing, or the word boobies offends you, this is probably not the best use of the next 2.5 to 3 hours. If you're used to webinars that run about 90 minutes and all they do is tease you and then say, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, you're probably going to be a little bit disappointed, because our goal here at Planet David is to deliver some of the most powerful, useful, and immediately effective actionable techniques imaginable. So if you follow the instructions and you do the things we tell you to do, you don't have to believe anything that we're going to share with you tonight. All you got to do is go out and apply them and test them for yourself, and you can prove to yourself just how rapidly these things work for you. I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between my PowerPoint presentation, my OneNote presentation. I'm not someone who's big on PowerPoint work, because I've seen more good presentations destroyed by people going into the wrong kinds of trances because of PowerPoints. But because this is such a visually intensive subject, we obviously have to have those kinds of aids in place. That being said, let me give you a few other administrative things we want to get out of place. First and foremost, you're going to have a lot of questions, and I love questions. Okay, I always believe that the better the question, the better the training. So here's how this works for you. There's 3 ways you can get your questions answered today, and that's first one is simply type it in the chat. If I understand, if I see your question in the chat and it's relevant to the point in the webinar that I'm at, I will just go ahead and answer it. However, because there's so many people on today, as I look at the number of participants flooding into the chat room, I see those numbers growing faster and faster. So there's a good chance as you ask your questions that I will not see it, and that's okay, because if I don't answer your question the first time around, all you need to do really is just keep asking it. If I see it, it's relevant to the point in the webinar we're at, and it won't take us too far off track, I'm going to go ahead and answer it for you. If by some chance I don't see it, or it's going to take us away from where we're going to go, keep typing it. For those of you who are veterans of Planet David, if you see a question in our chat that you have direct experience dealing with using our technologies, I invite you to reach out to the people who are asking the questions and give them an answer based on your experience. I don't want you to lie or prevaricate or say, David is the great thing since sliced bread. I want you to just tell them how you took the technique, used it, and how it answers their question. Okay. The third way to do it is after this webinar, as is our tradition, there will be a replay on YouTube as well as on our website. In the comments section below the webinar, all you need to do is type your question in, and I make it a practice to go in 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, scan through the comments, delete anybody who's just trolling or looking for negative attention, and I physically answer the questions that people ask. So I'm all about the questions. Now, our particular webinar format is what we have come to call a free-form webinar. What does that actually mean? It means that for the first 60 minutes or so, I am going to deliver as much foundational, hardcore, real-world information as humanly possible. I'm going to set some powerful foundations that you can start using immediately, things that you can just take out into the world and use. And that's going to set, then this foundation period is going to set the stage for what we're going to do in part 3 of the webinar. In part 2 of the webinar, I put together a package for you. A lot of times when people get the first of those nuclear chunks of information, they went, oh, this is amazing. I wonder what the whole system can do. So I put together a program for you to teach you how to take your learning further. So in phase 2 of the webinar, I'm going to teach you how to take this learning further. In phase 3 of our webinar, what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle back to the foundations we laid in part 1. I'm going to continue to teach, but this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to customize the content of the webinar to more precisely what those of you who are here tonight want to learn. I'll actually ask you, what do you want to know about? And then depending on what the group consensus is, that's when we'll spend time going deep dive into those things. Okay, so listen, if this is the scope of everything there is to learn when it comes to Chinese face reading or modern face reading for that matter, we've got time for this. So my promise to you, my commitment is I will take you as far as I can in the time we have. I will go as deep as humanly possible in those times, and I will point you in the direction of where to go for more. Is that fair? If you think that's fair, take a moment, humor me, type "that's fair" in the chat, and you're ready to go. Okay, go ahead and do that for me real quick. Cool. Excellent, excellent. So I skipped this at the beginning of the webinar, but since everybody's typing in there, type in your name and where you're checking in from, and whether you're a first-time student or a Planet David veteran. And by veteran, I mean someone who's been around 3 months or longer, who has consumed at least 3 or 4 of our webinars, if not our products. So we got Dharmendra is coming in as a first timer. Welcome, my friend. Good to see you. And how about our veterans? Type in your name and where you're checking in from. Jax is a veteran. She's checking in. Fair. Edwin, fair. Good, good, good. Excellent. Second webcast, Chris says. Perfect. Jax is from Tacoma. All right, perfect. So one of the questions that people often ask is, who the heck is Dr. David Snyder and why should I care? First and foremost, I am in fact an actual doctor. I have a doctorate in acupuncture and Chinese medicine from Pacific College of Oriental Medicine here in San Diego. I've been running a practice in Solana Beach, California since 2005, where my specialty has been treating physiological illness that is caused and rooted in repressed emotion. So while many neurolinguistic programmers, hypnotists, energy healers, they get things like smoke cessation, weight loss, sometimes chronic fatigue, things of that nature. I spent a lot of time on medical referrals and dealing with things like Parkinson's, emphysema, COPD, pretty much any form of trauma that you could imagine, terminal cancer. These are all things that when you peel back the layers, you find tons and tons and tons of repressed, stuffed down emotions. These are things that we've learned how to deal with very, very effectively. And when I discovered the power of Chinese face reading as part of my Oriental medical training, it took my understanding of human beings to a completely different level. And I truly believe that this is one of those game changer skills that you can have. So for those of you who want to know a little bit more about me, I've authored over 15 different products on various forms of human influence. This is a picture from our Global Gurus page, where I was ranked the #1 NLP trainer of the year by globalgurus.org. I've been in the top 2 slots for the last 6 or 7 years. What we have here is a letter from our Global Gurus page saying, "Dear David, it is with great pleasure to announce that your program, Killer Influence, has been named by global peers and ranked the #1 best program in the world for NLP and neurolinguistic programming. I've been a neurolinguistic programmer since before Methuselah strode the earth, it feels like sometimes, but really it was just the early 90s. And I've been pioneering and doing things in that realm ever since. But I also have a long background in the Chinese and the Japanese and the Okinawan and Filipino and Russian martial arts. I'm a 10th degree black belt in Ryukyu Kempo, 4th degree black belt in Shaolin Kun Tao, 2nd degree black belt in Kosho Kempo, 1st degree black belt in Fankuru Jiu-Jitsu. I have a certified instructorship in combat, Sistema, Cinco Mano Eskrima, and modern arnis. And I like to make a joke that I have more energy healing disciplines than McDonald's sells hamburgers. I've been a Reiki master since before Reiki was cool. I'm an advanced pranic healer and psychotherapist, advanced DNA theta healer, certified in the Bengston energy healing system. I'm working towards my doctorate in Chinese energetic medicine, medical Qigong. I've been a Hermetics practitioner forever. I've been studying Kabbalah since before Madonna ever heard of Kabbalah. So I'm very much a prima donna, as I like to say. And when people hear me go through this, they're thinking like, David, you're either the world's biggest liar, overachiever, or you're trying to compensate for something. Well, I'll let those of you who know me best answer that question for yourselves. But a lot of people do ask me, what do all these things have in common? And that answer is pattern recognition. What does that have to do with face reading? Practically everything. See, one of the things that you need to understand about the face is that it's based on patterns of thought and feeling, thought and intention. And those feelings have a neurological consequence. So the lines of your face, the architecture of your face is dramatically shaped and influenced by the patterns of thought, speech, and lifestyle that you live in or that you embody. And so as we go through these things, we're going to discover patterns. You're going to be able to look at people's faces and see their patterns. Those patterns will reveal what emotions they're doing really well, what emotions they're not doing very well, what emotions they're stuffing down, and all points in between. So when we begin to explore the face reading, you're going to be able to look at people and know in a very, very short amount of time, are these people that you can trust in authority? Are these people that are going to be too bossy? Are they people that are going to kind of try to undermine you? Are these people who are going to fall apart when the stress hits the fan? These are all questions that face reading can answer. If you're a therapist, I have not found a faster, more powerful diagnostic tool for peeling back people's layers, knowing how they make decisions, knowing what emotions they're stuffing down, what emotions they're not dealing with or avoiding. There's so many different aspects to this that it just keeps adding to itself. And if you understand how to read a person's face properly, we'll talk about the profiling uses of this technology. What I mean by that is you can look at a person's what we call passive profiling, which is the emotional health, the trauma history, the architecture of the face, and you can see the patterns they've been living. But you can also do what we call active profiling. And active profiling is the realm of what we have come to call in modern terms micro expressions, sudden small movements of the emotions that when people try to hide emotions or mask their feelings, little micro movements that their face makes. This course is primarily focused on what we call passive profiling, which is the consequence of a lifetime of micro expressions. But we will touch on some things that you can start to look at towards the end of the webinar, in part 3 of the webinar, when we circle back and we go deep dive into customizing the content of this webinar. We can make that more directly applicable to the places you want to use this at. That being said, are you in fact in the right place? And the way I often ask this is, if you can answer yes to any of these questions, go ahead and type it in the chat. By the way, I have to tell you that if you want to get the most out of this webinar, it's really, really important that you participate. In other words, if I ask a question and I ask for a response, give me that response. If I say do this, I want you to do that. You can always tell who's going to get the greatest degree of change by the amount of participation that they engage in. Okay, my job here isn't to just throw information at you. My job is to give you a set of experiences that allow you to pull back the blinds or the curtains, if you will, of real world experience versus theoretical experience. I want you to have an experience of these things. I want you I want to change that perspective for you. And I found that when you throw information at people without a way to give them the experience of it, a direct experience, we call it gnosis. They take that information in and then it's just gone the next day. But if I give you an experience, I put you through a series of processes that allows you to have a transformation. Once you pass through that door, you can't go back to being the old version of yourself. And most of us don't want to go back to being the old version of ourselves. We like moving forward and becoming the next best version. So if you'd like to become super interesting, attractive, and charismatic to the opposite sex, type yes in the chat if that's something you would like to have more of. If you would like the ability to banish fear and insecurity from your life and move through the world with more confidence and comfort than ever before, type yes in the chat. If you'd like to have more money, make more friends, right? Have people in your life that you can actually rely on and trust far more than ever before, type yes in the chat. If you'd like to be able to walk into any job interview and know exactly how to talk to people in a way that gets them the most interested in you and wanting you to fill that position, go ahead and type yes in the chat. If you'd like the ability to have people hanging on your every word and find you the most fascinating person in the room, go ahead and type that into the chat. Type yes into the chat. If you'd like to be able to fix your own shit being a technical term, which we'll talk about later, type that in the chat. If you'd like to help other people fix their shit, go ahead and type that in the chat too. Okay, these are all things that are more than possible when you apply the principles of face reading to yourself and to your life. Okay, my job is to empower all of you to go out and get the life that you want the way that you want it. Face reading is certainly one of the skills that has allowed me to do that, and it's allowed my students to do that. We just came back from the Best You Expo, and I took 4 or 5 of my top people there. And we had lines around the block waiting for the faces to be read, their crap to be fixed, you name it. We were the stars of the entire expo. Not just me, because I'm just the crazy dude in a vest, but my students, because we believe that all these skills, I'm not special. All of these skills are transferable. You can learn them. And when you apply them, you become someone who is truly an empowered, confident agent of transformation. And that's what we want. Okay. So if you said yes to any of this stuff, you're in the right place. Now, if none of this is interesting, you might want to save the 3 hours and go, watch House or Three Stooges or something. All right. So that being said, if you stay till the end of the webinar, here's what I promise you. I will show you the most powerful method for speed reading and profiling human behavior you've ever seen. Okay, I'll show you how to understand personality and temperament, how to track and understand a person's emotional trauma history. In other words, what emotions are they stuffing? What emotions are they not dealing with, but are building up in their system? How to gauge sexual and romantic compatibility. It's actually quite easy when you understand the principles of face reading. Okay, we'll show you how to read personality and temperament and how to become a master of people reading and influence once and for all. So my question for you is, how many of you have something specific that you would like to be able to do as a byproduct of face reading today? What would you like to be able to do with this information? Type in the chat. What do you want to be able to do with it? This is our first drill, by the way, but this is where we start. Read intent. Okay. Eric says. What else? Help others, Diana says. Perfect. I want to be able to read my audience so I can tailor my training to maximize their results. Okay. Tell if people are lying, Randy says. All right. I'd like to know if someone is being honest. Okay, that goes back to lie detection. Detect lies and attraction. Live better. Understand what lines on my face mean for me. Okay, perfect. Now, here's your first drill. Now, this is a technique that I teach in all my webinars. And it's dramatically important because it goes right to the emotional drivers that make people do the things that they want to do. Catherine says, protect yourself and others. Okay, we can do that. David says, project the persona that I want. Good. Now, for those of you who type those things in the chat, I want you, let me go to my my one page here, and I want to guide you through a process really, really quickly. Okay. Let me share my screen. So this is, again, I usually do this a little bit later in the program, but for some reason this feels right for me right now. So we're going to do this. Oops, that's not what I wanted to share with you. Hold on a second. Here we go. Okay. All right. So this is my OneNote. This is, I don't usually rely on PowerPoints near as much as I use OneNote. So the first thing I want you guys to do is I want you to write out on a piece of paper the answer. So one of the things, some of the things that I saw in the chat were, let me find a good one here. All right, detect lies and attraction. So someone said detect lies and attraction. Okay. I hope you're all getting out a piece of paper and are following along using your own questions. So this is what you want to get. So this is what this person wants to get out of this seminar. Okay. Now under that, you're going to ask, you're going to type this question. What is important about that? So in other words, if this person got the ability to detect lies and attraction, what's that going to do for them? Write that answer below that question. Okay, you guys following me so far? Type yes if you're with me so far. And maybe an example would be, I know how to deal with people. Right? Again, their answer is not going to be my answer, but I need to, sometimes it's best to lead by example. Oops. Right? Okay, so I'm going to take that question, so I know how to deal with people, and I'm going to ask the next question about what's important about that. What's important about knowing how to deal with people? so I can know who I can trust, right? And then I'm going to ask the next question, what's important about that? So I can be safe. Right? All right. So you see that we've asked the question 3 times. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to just take a minute or two, get a piece of paper, write this out for yourself. Okay. And when you've done that, when you've done all 3, type done in the chat. Okay. When you've done all 3, type done in the chat. Okay. Randy says done. Dee says done. Okay, good, good, good. Now, take that sheet of paper. Take that sheet of paper. Hold it up like this. And read the answers to the what's important about question, just the answers 3 times out loud to yourself. And notice what happens to the feelings in your body after you do it. Go ahead and do it. Just do it 5 times out loud, and then type in the chat what happened to your body. Eugene says, got to be more alert. Diane says, done. Randy says, calmer. What happened? Jackie says, centered. Perfect. Okay, what you've just done is tapped into less tense, more balanced. Eric's saying, good. Sandra says, done. Diana says, relaxed. Excellent. Greater understanding of myself. Very good. Okay, perfect. Now, let me explain why this is important. When you're dealing with humans, everything human beings do is in response to a feeling. It's either a feeling they want more of or a feeling they want a whole lot less of. Now, everything human beings do is moving towards a feeling they want or away from a feeling they don't want. And to do that, they have a checklist inside of their hearts and their minds that defines for them what is acceptable and desirable. What you have just done is you've tapped into what we call your emotional motivation checklist. This is a powerful technique because once you understand how to do this with yourself, but also with other people, people will simply do what you want them to do as a natural byproduct of doing this list with them, okay? We'll circle back towards the end of the webinar and I'll tell you how to functionalize this a little bit more. But this is one of the things that if you learned nothing else from tonight's webinar, would make you dramatically more influential and powerful, okay? So let's go to the first thing. One of the things that this goes to is the ability to make decisions. What if we could look at somebody and in just a few seconds from across the room even, know with a high degree of probability how they actually went about making decisions? Do you think that would be a strategically useful thing to know how to do? Type that in the chat if you think that would be useful. Okay, good. Because that's where we're going to start. So I've taken a lot of time trying to simplify this for people. And so we're going to look at we're going to divide the face up into several types of ways. The first one we're going to look at is decision making. Okay, so let me go to my my sharing. Oops, that's not what I want. 1 second. Okay, so this is our decision-making face. And this is probably one of the most important. I think this is probably one of the most important maps of the face that we have. I don't necessarily think it is the most important, but it's right up there in the top 3. So we're going to look at that. I just got to get my, oops, hold on a second. I just got to make sure that my Zoomers get access to this as well. So Like I said, I'm bouncing back and forth between YouTube, so I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to do this. Okay. Okay. So I think that should do it. All right. So first and foremost, let's look at this. Let me see if I can zoom this in a little bit. If you take a person's face and you divide it into 3 basic zones, right? And the place you divide is like right at the eyebrow line here to the top of the head. And then from the base of the philtrum, or the top of the philtrum, to the eyebrow line itself, you have 3 basic zones. You have the upper zone, which we call zone 1, or the data-driven zone. You have the pragmatic zone, which is all about what is this going to do for me? And then you have what we call the emotional or instinctive zone. So when we look at these zones, if we have someone who in a scale of 0 to 10, their top zone here is the biggest portion. You're looking at somebody who is very, very driven by data and information. So if you come at these people with the idea of that, hey, I got this great product, you're going to love it, they're going to look at you and go, prove it. Right? They're going to say, hey, show me the data, show me the studies, show me the facts, show me the testimonials, show me the social proof, show me everything about this product on a data level. Okay. Now, contrast that with someone who has a middle zone that is the biggest part of their face. Right? These people are very pragmatic. These people don't want to know about the data just yet. They don't want to know how much they're going to love it just yet. What they want to know, in no uncertain terms, is what's it going to do for me? Right? How can I use it? Right? So people with a larger middle zone are going to be very pragmatic in their approach to deciding how to do things. Okay. Now, I don't need you to go and take this on faith. What I need you to do is go out and test this. I want you to find the local tech campuses where you live. Like where I live, we have Qualcomm, we have a bunch of other, we even have an FBI office not too far from where I live. And when you look at the people during lunch break, you see that the vast majority of them are very upper zone. They're eggheads. Right? They're very data driven. Okay. Contrast that if you were to go to some place like an MMA gym, you'll see people with a very dominant lower zone, because these are the physical zones. And that's really what this lower zone here is all about, is about physicality, emotion, and instinct. These people are very gut driven. So if you come at somebody with a much larger lower zone with a spreadsheet, okay, their eyes are going to cross. They're going to look at you like, what the hell is this? All right, I don't want to do that. My gut tells me it's not the right place to go. Now, this is actually a very simplistic way to look at decision-making processes. And the way most people teach this, you would say, what's their biggest zone, right? And then you would just approach that way. But that's not what we do, because each and every one of us have had times in our lives when we've been data-driven. We've had times in our lives where we just wanted to know what it'll do for us. We've had times in our life when we just trusted our gut or didn't trust our gut, as the case may be. So when you look at these things, I don't want you to think about one zone, but rather I want you to think about what is the order of the zones? In other words, what's the largest, the second largest, and the third largest, right? And this is going to give you the order of information to present. So if I have someone who has a basic 1, 2, 3 zone, right? This is zone 1 right here, right? Hold on a second. This is zone 1. This is zone 2. This is zone 3. If I have a basic 1, 2, 3, then I know I need to present the data first, tell them how much they're going to love it, or tell them what it's going to do for them, and then how much they're going to love it. But if I've got someone who's a 3, 2, 1, I can't come at them the same way. I have to come at them with how much they're going to love it, what it's going to do for them, and all the data that supports it. Right. So when you think about these zones, it's easy for people just, understanding a little bit of face reading. It's easy for people to go, well, they're a data driven person, so I'm just going to give them the data. That's not going to initiate a whole propulsion system. So we want to look at the order of what's the, is their middle zone their first one, and the second one, are they a 2-3-1, or I'm sorry, a 2-1-3, a 1-2-3? What are they? And present them with the information that way. So let me go to the chat and see if we have questions on this. Okay. So Jeffrey's asking, how do you present to somebody who is even in all three sides? Great question. Go with the zone that captures your attention first. There is something about the unconscious mind. How many people are familiar with the 6 dynamics of an unconscious response? If you're familiar, type yes in the chat. If not, type no. It's okay. I'll go through them. Okay. Dharmendra says they're familiar. Anybody else? Okay. Okay. So let's talk about this. So we talk about the 6 dynamics of an unconscious response. The first thing we need to understand, and this is why we have to learn to trust our unconscious mind. Your unconscious mind always answers first. It always answers honestly. It always feels like you're making it up. You always have an urge to edit what just came up. It's never loud and it's never linear. When we start doing face reading, our subconscious mind is much more tuned in and tapped in to the subtle facial architecture and movements of the face than our conscious mind is. So one of the first things that we can begin to do if we have someone who's very balanced in those zones, what part of their face do you focus on first? Chances are it will be the most prominent, if that makes any kind of sense. Does that make sense? So that's how I would solve that problem. Okay, good. All right, so is this useful? Do we understand the difference? If I have a person who has a very, and you can see on my face, I have an extremely large upper zone. Often when I'm doing a webinar, because I have these really sharp wings back here, my forehead even looks even bigger than it actually is because of the depth perception and everything else. But I have a huge data-driven zone, but I'm also very pragmatic. And so my other 2 zones are also quite close to balanced, really. And so oftentimes what also happens is these people sometimes have trouble making a decision because their data, their pragmatism, and their gut are at odds with each other, right? And this is actually kind of verified if you're familiar with something called M-braining technology. They've discovered that each of the different nervous systems of the brain, like the head brain, the heart brain, and the gut brain, each process different types of information. And to make a truly good decision for you, you need all 3. Right? Which is why I'm teaching you the 3 zones instead of just 1. If you want to keep it simple, just zero in on the biggest zone and feed them that information. But the more you bring in these other zones, the more holistic that they're going to feel about that decision. Now, if you can link the presentation of this information to the emotional bonding checklist that we've just elicited in ourselves, we elicited in them, now we know exactly how to merge those 2 things to become even more compelling, right? Now we have a different class that focuses on the emotional bonding checklist, but I wanted you guys to understand that that checklist trumps everything, okay? And I don't mean Trump as in the guy that was in the White House. Trump as in being more powerful, right? So is this helpful? Is this useful? In theory, it's actually is quite simple. The difference is, Jeffrey, I think it was Jeffrey. The difference is you just got to have people to practice with, and that's why we do the mastermind groups. That's why we have all the practice groups. Our community probably on any given week has more practice groups than any other training institution on the planet. We're always getting together. We're always practicing. We're always training. Okay, so I highly recommend. And in fact, if you stay with us to the end of the webinar, I'm going to show you exactly how to get into those practice groups and take your training to the next level. Okay, so just bear with me. We'll show you how to get the training in. Okay, So one of the things that I love to talk about is when we look at a person's face, there's many different ways that we can divide that facial architecture. The one that I found the most immediately useful when it comes to business applications or negotiation, mediation, things of that nature, was the decision map. The next one we're going to talk about is, what if we could look at somebody and be able to kind of get a snapshot into what is the face that they want everybody to see versus what they're really like when nobody's around, the door is locked, the windows are closed. What kind of person are they, and how are they different? How do those two faces blend to create a personality? Does that make sense? If we could look at somebody's public mask or public persona versus their private persona, do you think that might be useful? Yes or yes? Okay, that's where we're going to go next. We're going to look at public faces versus private faces. And the way we do that is we divide the face. We divide the face into a right hemisphere and a left hemisphere. Now, one of the things I want you to start to pay attention to when you apply this is symmetry. The more symmetrical a face is, the more balanced it is between public and private. The more asymmetrical it is, the more we now have a predominance of certain types of behaviors, emotions, data filters going on. So let's look at this from a public persona versus a private persona face. And let me go ahead and share the screen here with this. So let's do new share. So stop sharing here. Like I said, I'm bouncing between different different platforms, so just bear with me here. And let's move that out of the way. This is not moving. Oh, there we go. Share. Okay. Can everybody see that okay? Hold on a second. There we go. All right. So this is what, when we look at somebody's public versus private face, this is really, really important. So if we look at the person's right side, what we're going to see is their public face. This is the face they show the world. When we look at a person's left side, we're going to see their private face. This is the one nobody sees, but they're very close friends. Now, what are some things that we want to look at when we judge these faces? Well, first and foremost, you want to look at the relative size of the features. Okay, so if I look at their eye, for example, which eye is bigger? In other words, when you take the eye, is one eye more open than the other eye? Do they hold it open wider or closed more? The bigger the eye, the wider it's held open, the more open this person is, both in terms of emotion, imagination, in terms of giving and receiving information, versus a small eye or somebody whose eye is held very, very closed. The more closed the eye, the smaller the eye is held, the more this person is selective about the information that they take in and the information they give out. So if you got somebody who's got a big public eye, but a very, very small or closed down private side, you can tell right away that this person on the surface seems to be very outgoing, very emotional, an open book, but in their private life, they're a little bit more suspicious. They're a little bit more reserved. There's a little bit more analysis going on. The truth is, a lot of times you'll see the exact opposite of what I've just described. You'll see that their public eye is actually the one that's a little bit smaller, and the public eye will be a little bit bigger, right? So, but this is something that we want to look for, is we want to look for symmetry. Another thing we want to start to look at when we start to look at people's public versus private sides is the lines of the face. Are the lines deeper on one side than the other. If a person's lines are deeper on one side, you're looking at somebody who's stuffed down and is holding in a lot of unresolved emotional stuff. And so once again, we want, as opposed to just if we have, trying to just illustrate this for you really quick. So if you have, the same lines are here, right? But they're not nearly as deep. You've got someone who's experiencing a lot more and is stuffing down a lot more emotion in their public life than their private life, or vice versa. So one of the things that we look for is how symmetrical from right side to left side is the face, right? If the face is relatively unmarked here, then you've got someone who's either really not connected to their emotions, or they're a Buddha and they've processed a lot of stuff out. Whereas if they're really marked on their private side, you're looking at somebody who is going through some crap, right? So is this helpful? Is anyone else having trouble seeing the face picture? Mine disappeared. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Let me see what's going on. No, there it is. Can you guys see it now? Picture was still up. Okay. Cool. Okay. So what else we got? What if the lines are equally deep? If the lines are equally deep, Sandra, you're looking at somebody who is experiencing, or in this case, actually stuffing down emotions both publicly and privately. Some people don't make a distinction between their public life and their private life. Most of us try very hard to keep boundaries between what is open to public access versus what is private. Taryn says helpful, but I'm a bit confused looking at the side of the face that is facing me. Right side is the inner. Yeah, it's always their true right. So if you raise your right hand, if they raise their right hand, that's their right side. If they raise their left hand, that's their left side. It's not mirror. It's not mirror image. Well, it is mirror image, but yeah, it's almost like when we're talking about NLP eye accessing cues. People say, well, what if it's my right side or their right side? It's always their right and their left. It has nothing to do with you. Is right side creative or is left side creative? Okay, this is something that my teacher Lillian Bridges, who was the world's leading authority on face reading, put into her diagram. It's not immediately useful for what we're doing. Okay, but if you need to see it, here it is. The right brain, or the left side of your face, is controlled by the right hemisphere of your brain. That's what that means. Okay. The left side of your face is controlled by the right hemisphere of your brain. The right side of your face, the left side of your face is controlled by the left hemisphere. Did I just screw that up? Hold on a second. Hold on. Let me make this picture bigger. All right. So so public side is controlled by the left brain, which is analytical, factual, and clear. The left side is controlled by the right brain, right? So again, I don't want to change my teacher's graphs, but this actually makes us a little bit more confused. What we need to understand really is that the right side of the face is the public side. The left side of the face is the private side. Okay, that's really all we need to worry about. But if you must know, then the right brain controls the left side of the face. The left brain controls the right side of the face. And that's how you do that. Okay. Let me go back. Let me just shrink this a little bit now. Okay. Tracking that makes sense. Okay, good. All right. So what can we do with this? Anybody have any ideas? Oh shit, this is the interactive part. What can we do with this? I'm going to tell you, but stupid bicameral minds. What can we do with this? Well, here's how I want you to think about it. This is how it was kind of explained to me while we were discussing this in face reading. We can tap into their emotions for sure. So one of the things that I learned studying with one of my colleagues, Chase Hughes, was about the masks that people wear. And when we start thinking about everybody you meet is wearing a mask, face reading is one of the fastest ways to peel back those masks. And sometimes peeling back a person's mask is very useful. Like if you're doing therapy or counseling or something of that nature. But in business negotiations, especially, people spend an inordinate amount of time creating a face, creating an image of who they want you to perceive them as. So in a business dealing, you always want to present to the business face. The public face is who they want you to perceive them as when you're doing negotiations, sales and marketing, things of that nature. Does that make sense? So Chris, okay. Now, if we're doing something like counseling, hypnotherapy, psychotherapy, even medicine for that matter, and we need to get to the root of an emotional problem, that's when we start to zero in on a person's private face, a private persona. That's going to also, if we're going to get into a relationship with this person, you can tell so much about how a person is likely to treat you by simple things like how the corner of their eyes either hook or point or round, how the eyes angle up or angle down, how open the eye is held. These are all things that will lead to giving you a profile of how this person is likely to be when they let you into their inner world. Okay, so on a 50,000 foot level, the public side is something we should use for business and professional applications. Okay, the private side is something we should use for personal applications. So affairs of the heart, right? As opposed to affairs of the dollar sign, right? It's kind of how I look at it. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Is that helpful? Okay, so let's review really quickly what we've got. Now we're going to start to look at emotions of the face. What if we could look at somebody's face and actually just start to unpack their entire emotional history? In other words, know exactly how much joy they've had in relation to how much sadness they've had, how skeptical they might be versus how much bitterness and resentment they've been holding on to versus how nurturing or less than nurturing they might be, how bossy they might be. Are those things that might be useful? Okay, cool. So that's where we're going to go next. Okay, so let me go ahead and change my PowerPoints around. And okay, I'm almost there, guys. Bear with me. Okay, so this is one of my favorite maps of the face. To me, it was the one that truly cemented in just how powerful and how useful face reading was, both from a therapeutic perspective as well as a professional perspective. We're gonna in part 3 of the webinar, we're going to talk about lie detection and some of the things that we can look for that might indicate somebody's lying. But let's look at this right now. This is the emotional map of the face, and we're going to do this in groups of 3. So let's start with from the top right. Let me just erase some of these lines because as you can see, I use these diagrams quite often. So we look at the top right. And when you see a line that starts at about the mid-level of the eyebrow and moves laterally towards the temple, you're looking at somebody who's got a lot of skepticism. These are people that will not take anything you say at face value. They're going to take everything you say with a grain of salt, and you got to prove it to them. Period. End of story. Now, if you look at the corner of the eye, you see a line that starts to trend up here. This is a joy line. And people with these lines have experienced a large amount of happiness and joy in their life. Now, I have to be a little bit, I have to take a moment to clarify. When we look at the Asian systems of face reading, a lot of times you will hear the emotion of joy connected to a pathology of the heart. And what that really means, the Chinese conception of pathological joy is actually overexcitement, like mania or shock. And so, like if you think of somebody who hits the lottery and then suddenly they get so excited they have a heart attack, that's the kind of joy that we're talking about, a pathological joy. People with these kinds of lines have had a lot of happy events and experiences in their life. When you see someone giving you genuine, what we call genuine positive eye contact, you will always see these wrinkles form when they smile at you. That's what we call a Duchenne smile. It's a really important micro expression to look for to figure out if someone's genuinely happy to see you or not. Okay, so joy lines start at the outer canthus and they travel. And for those who don't know what canthus means, it's the outer corner of the eye and it travels upward. Now, if we go directly across to this diagram, if you see joy lines that start at the outer canthus and travel up past the eyebrow, like you see here, a big red flag should go off. Okay, what you're seeing is exactly what I was talking about the pathological joy or mania, and that's what this means. People with lines that tend to travel beyond the outside of the eyebrow tend to be bipolar. They tend to have a hyperactive disorder to them. They can be bipolar, manic depressive, sometimes borderline. But these people have a lot of what we call heart fire going on. So you have to be very, very careful with that. All right. These people be up at 3 o'clock in the morning tweeting. You might know some people who have these lines that were famous for doing that. Right. Also starting at the outer corner of the eye, but trending down now are the negative emotions of sadness, sorrow, and grief. Now, I tend to view these as degrees of each other. But one of the things that does kind of distinguish them is the amount of time and the amount of processing that has happened. Someone who is showing a lot of sadness lines, they may have been very, very sad, but they've processed it relatively quickly. People who have had are showing sorrow usually have more unprocessed sadness, which is merged into grief. Usually it's more than one issue, right? So if they've lost a loved one or something like that, but they haven't finished fully resolving it. And then of course, when you hit the grief level, you have the oldest, greatest reservoir of unprocessed grief or unprocessed sadness. And this is something that I want you, for those of you who are healers and caregivers, if you're dealing with people who suffer from terminal or chronic lung problems, emphysema, COPD, allergies, asthma, chances are when you start to unpack the psycho-emotional aspects of that disease, you're going to find a lot of unprocessed grief, loss, and emotion. Okay, so I want to show you this really, really quickly. This is a map that I don't show a lot because, again, most people wouldn't really resonate with it too much. But I want to just other maps. Here we go. See, when an acupuncturist looks at your face, this is what they see. If you'll notice here, all of the grief and sadness-based emotions run through the lung to certain degrees. Now, there's one more loss-related emotion that we're going to cover in our first segment, and that is called lost loves. And a lost love line will start at the inner canthus. It'll pass through, and it'll wind its way down like a river towards the grief and sadness lines. Okay. This is really important because when you see these kinds of lines, especially the loss, all of these lines deal with loss. The difference is the lost love line, and sometimes it'll go straight down like I've shown you here, but sometimes it'll actually wind its way across and then down. But you notice it goes through the lungs. Okay, so you're going to see that a lot of times when people are dealing with grief, they're going to have lung issues. And a lot of times when you start treating a person for lung issues, grief will come up. And the reason this happens a lot of times is because there's a disconnect between the amount of time a person actually needs to grieve and the amount of time that they've given themselves. So let me just pause the screen share for just a second. So a lot of times what happens is, let's say you've lost a pet, right? And like you take some time off from work, and work's given you like a week off to grieve for your pet. And so in your mind, in your conscious mind, you're saying, okay, I've got a week to grieve. Well, 7 days rolls around, you're still grieving for the pet, but you have to go back to work. So what do? Don't have time to think about Fluffy now. I don't have time to think about how much I loved her and how much I missed her. I got to stuff that down, right? And you go back to work, and every time memories of Fluffy come up or the loss comes up, you find some way to distract yourself, or you find some way to focus on something else. You focus on your work. Well, every time that happens, you're adding more energy to that unresolved grief. You're stuffing it and pushing it further and further into your system. Why? Because you've given yourself a cognitive, arbitrary time limit on how long grieving should take. And you're not going back in and finishing that process. And so what happens is you'll start to build up a reservoir of that grief energy, and it'll come back to haunt you in some way, but it'll also mark you on the face. So a lot of times when we get these lost love lines, or when we get these grief and sadness lines, we need to be fully present and allow that grief to express itself, to come out, to be fully healthy. Otherwise, we're going to have to go back later using some kind of a technique like classical face reading or hypnotherapy or NLP or holographic memory resolution. And we're going to have to deal with that either at the emotional, both in its emotional form, but also many times in the form of a physiological illness, right? That was my specialty for 15 years. Okay. So I want to be very, very clear. These lines, how these lines happen is we don't give ourselves the freedom to fully process out these emotions. Okay. Are we clear there? Nice recent popular reference. Does it matter what side no, most of these lines, unless I say otherwise, are bilateral. They can be on either side of the face, one side or both. Okay. All right. So I have time for 2 or 3 more. Then if it's okay with you, I want to move into part 2 of the webinar. We'll go through phase 2 of the webinar. We'll talk about how to take your training further if that's where you want to go. And then we'll circle back and we'll pick up with finishing the map of the face, and we'll go into deeper levels of face reading that we can do. This came up on another one of your teachings. What about people with Botox and fillers? People with Botox and fillers tend to cause emotional toxicity in the liver, and they also tend to freeze their emotional responsiveness. There is never a good reason for poisoning your face. Okay. I cannot email you the slides simply because these slides are copywritten to my teacher, Lillian. And I made a promise that I would not do that. But I'm pretty sure if you go on Google Images, you'll find a lot of these images out there anyway. Okay. But also if you come to our face reading training, you'll get copies of these as well. Yeah, people with, like, again, they lose their emotional expressiveness, but they also tend to blunt their emotions in themselves. They tend to actually blunt their ability to express and feel certain emotions. So again, there's never a good reason for poisoning your face, honestly. In fact, when we get to part 3 of the webinar, I'll tell you some stories about people who've done very radical things to the Jing level of their face, the bony constructs of their face, and have actually lost ability to do certain things as a byproduct of that. People with Botox and fillers are dead on the inside. I wouldn't say they're dead, but they're definitely more numb. They tend to be more numb. Okay. But dead, dead on the inside is kind of harsh. So we might want to be a little bit more compassionate on that in that respect. Anyway, so let's look at some other things that you're going to see a lot of. And some of the things that I dealt with a lot, and I at the expo that I just came from, we saw these a lot. Every now and then, you're going to look at somebody, and you're going to see little vertical lines right at the upper lips here. This is somebody who is experienced a lot of bitterness in their life. I'm sorry, not bitterness. Hold on a second. There we go. Over nurturing. This is something you see a lot in caregivers, like home health aides, nurses, teachers, daycare workers, moms who have a lot of kids. You'll see these little lines starting to manifest here. Now, there's three characteristics that I really want to call your attention to. One is over nurturing. The second is disappointment. And the third one is bitterness. And the reason that we want to talk about these is because when you see these three together, this person is on the track to manifesting a very dangerous illness, that dangerous illness being cancer. Now, if you have these markings, it doesn't mean you're going to get cancer. But one of the things I've discovered in working with hundreds of people and many different healers dealing with, there's no such thing as an emotionally healthy cancer patient. So what happens is people who have these lines are always giving. They're giving and they're giving and they're giving and they're giving with the expectation that they're going to get something back. They were taught certain rules that if you give to the world will give back to the same degree that you're giving. But that never seems to happen for these people, or at least from their perception, it never seems to happen. And so after a certain amount of time, they're giving so much of their life force and energy away, they start to drain their own vitality. After a while, when they realize that all the energy that they're putting out isn't coming back to them. Hold on a second. I think my YouTubers lost their picture. Hold on, there we go. Okay. So after a certain amount of time, these people become very disappointed in life because what they're getting isn't what they're giving. They're giving far more from their perspective than what they thought they were supposed to get. After a while, that becomes a very bitter experience. And that's when these three start to manifest, you've got a recipe for cancer. These people are going to start looking for a way to balance the scales. And if they can't find one, they will manifest an exit strategy. That exit strategy is usually going to be some form of intestinal illness, or something in what we call the lower jiao, right? And that's what you'll find a lot of times. So again, if you see people with these lines, and I know a lot of smokers have these bitterness lines or these over nurturing lines, right? You have to ask a question is why they're smoking. Usually because smoking is a form of self-soothing, right? Because they're usually perceiving life as giving more to life than they're getting back. Okay. It doesn't mean they're wrong either. Sometimes these people are absolutely 1000% giving more than they're getting, and they're really, really hurt by it. And they don't know how to reverse that equation, which is really sad, because they don't. The problem that these people have a lot of times is that they aren't willing to change their rules. They expect the world to eventually recapitulate, but it never does, and so they become very, very bitter about it. Okay. We'll leave on a positive note. If you see a single line in the lower lip, this is a person with a fairly good sense of humor, right? They can tell a good joke. They appreciate a good joke, and they're fun people to be around. Eric says, what discipline does this tradition come from? This comes from the Lillian Bridges family tradition, which is Chinese medicine. I believe it's the Chen lineage. And that's what I follow. Okay. Questions about what we've covered so far? Any questions? You guys good? Is the biggest thing just getting lots of practice? Practice is absolutely critical for sure. But the nice thing about face reading is you don't need a lot of information to start putting it to work right away, right? What I teach my students to do is start with the 3 zones, public and private, and pick 5 emotions to look for every day. Just pick 5 and just get really good at seeing them. And then when you've got that down, go on to something else. So with your permission, if it's okay with you, I promised you I would take you as far as I can in the first 60 minutes. I'd show you how to take it to the next level, and then we'd circle back around to build on the foundations that we laid out. Is that okay to do that? Juliana says, you mentioned allergies being about grief, usually unresolved lung energy. Yes. And Jackie asked, does this hold if someone had ptosis since early childhood? Probably. In fact, one of the interesting things about facial characteristics, and I'll tell you this in part 3, was Brent Baum was telling me about one of his clients who experienced a severe childhood trauma. And when they were, and as a result of it, this actually happened in utero. And as a result of resolving the trauma, their eye actually changed its shape. And that's one of the weird things you'll see when you start resolving a lot of these emotions, is that the facial markings actually changed. All right. So let's go ahead and let me show you how to take this further, if this is something that you feel is useful for you. And then we'll circle back and we'll build on this. Okay. So give me just 1 second to move everybody around. Let's see here. No, I don't need that. Share. All right. That's one screen share down. One more to go. Here we go. All right. So everybody's on the same page again. And with your permission, I'd like to share with you a special package that I put together. And this is designed to help you take your face reading skills to the next level. It's actually one of the best packages we've ever offered. And this is called the Face Reading for Fun and Profit, How to Read Anyone Instantly Home Study Course. This is a package that we put together specifically to help you learn the ins and outs of face reading at home and give you the ability to rapidly create powerful personality profiles of people in literally 90 seconds. Okay. It's about learning how to understand yourself and take your life to the next level, how to read people instantly, predict their behavior, to help people raise themselves up, including yourself, to get clear emotionally, mentally, physically, and financially, to feel more confident and more powerful, and literally win the game of life by understanding yourself and other people. Okay. So here's what we put together. This offer is good for today, March 8th, 2023. It expires at 11:59 p.m. And what it's going to include for you is the Secrets of Face Reading Home Study Course. It's going to teach you how to assess personality and temperament, discover the thinking and decision-making styles of human beings, how to use and unlock people's emotional traumas and help to resolve them, to discover people's management styles. Do they actually respond well to authority? Are they people that you can trust as part of a team? Do these people need to work better on their own? What are your sexual and romantic compatibilities? Certain facial characteristics are antagonistic to one another. Certain facial characteristics are complementary to one another. We'll show you how to kind of look at a person's face and figure out, is this person going to be a good fit for me? Are these two people going to be fits for each other? We'll show you how that works so you can begin to rapidly profile people and really make some serious understandings of the humans in your world. It's going to give you the ability to manage money and resources. Certain facial characteristics lend themselves to accumulating and managing money. Some people are good at taking financial risks. Some people are not. You can actually look at a person's face and figure out, this person can handle money. This person is able to save and build wealth. This person tends to spend a lot. There are certain facial characteristics that lend themselves to those kinds of behaviors. You don't have to believe it. You just have to read it. Okay. You'll learn how to understand yourself better and how to really connect with people. And that's something I want to warn you about. When you start to do face reading and you become a face reader, everyone around you will find you absolutely fascinating and charismatic. Now, that's a double-edged sword. If you want to be popular and if you want to have people hanging on your every word and be able to influence people, it's tremendous. If you're someone who doesn't always like to be the center of attention, you may need to dial it back and not let everybody know that you're good at reading faces. Okay. Also, the power of your words becomes tremendously more influential. For some reason, there's this weird, the only thing I can call it is an attunement, but there's some weird vibrational transformation that happens in people when you become a face reader that makes people hyper responsive to the things you say and do with regard to face reading. They become super, super influenced by you. So again, as an influence amplifier, this is one of the most powerful things I've ever discovered. It's not something I talk about to the degree I'm talking about it right now. Because most people want to know how to read people. But one of the side effects of this is you become amazingly authoritative in a person's world. And it's a power that you need to really use with some respect. But this is what the program's about. This is what it'll do for you. Okay. If you want to be the most fascinating person in the room, if you never want to be fooled again, if you want to be able to look at somebody and know with a high degree of certainty, this is the kind of person I'm dealing with. This is what they're most likely to do in certain situations. Do I trust these people with the things I want to trust them with? This is where face reading can give you a distinct advantage. It's a $1,997 value. And it's just the very beginning because we put together one of the most comprehensive packages I've ever seen to teach you how to do this all from the privacy of your own home and give you access to special practice groups that'll let you do this. If you grab your package today before the end of the webinar, we're going to include these special bonuses as well. You're also going to get one of my most powerful influence and profiling courses ever. In 2022, this course, Defense Against the Dark Arts, was named the #1 NLP training program in the world. In 2020, it was Killer Influence. This is based on the Killer Influence curriculum, but it's focused specifically on personality profiling, how to speed profile and influence and counter manipulation tactics. In other words, how do you spot the evildoers of the world? How do you figure out who the good guys are from the bad guys? How do you counter their tactics? How do you protect yourself from them? It was ranked the #1 NLP course in the world of 2022. It's a $4,576 value. We're going to give this to you absolutely free in order to round out your face reading training. So not only will you have the complete face reading level 1 certification, you're also going to have all the other behavioral profiling tactics that go with this. Okay. Things like how to think like a master of influence, how to control your psycho-emotional state so no one else can, power rapport skills for connecting with anyone, anytime, anywhere, irresistible hypnotic language patterns that you can deploy at the drop of a hat to stop people from influencing you and to influence people in the direction you want them to go, how to manage your emotional state and the states of others at will, how to hijack or keep your own internal behavior code from being hijacked, and how to emotionally bond to anyone's deepest desires. But we're not going to stop there. You're also going to learn how to do the fundamentals of lie detection on demand, the master keys for how to influence and read anyone, anytime, anywhere. We're going to give you the speed profiling secrets for preventing predators from getting their hooks into you in the first place. We're going to teach you the victimology and the personality of these people so that you can spot them before they have a chance to get past your guard and create taproots in your life. We're going to teach you about predatory psychology, how it works, and how to turn the tables on narcissists and other persuasion predators. A lot of you guys were asking me earlier about how to actually catch people in lies, protect yourself from being manipulated. This is what allows you to rapidly turn the tables on it. The face reading gives you the ability to create a very powerful profile. The tactics of Defense Against the Dark Arts allows you to actually do something about what you see based on what the people in front of you are actually doing in terms of their behavior. So one gives you the ability to spot, the other gives you the ability to actually change things and make things happen. right? We're going to teach you about the 14 hypnotic reframe techniques for winning arguments and keeping yourself from being gaslighted. We're going to teach you the 21 conversational red flags of narcissists and sociopaths. These are 21 distinct linguistic tactics that people who are high on the narcissistic and sociopathic spectrums express whenever you call them on their bullshit, or they use to avoid taking responsibility for things. Once you understand these 21 red flags, you'll be able to flag people instantly before they have a chance to become a permanent part of your life and wreak havoc on you. Okay, how to instantly spot micro-expression changes and subtle cues. And we're going to give you the complete Killer Influence Mind Control Manifesto. It's a 240 or 215 page manual. It's a $418 value. Total value on this is $4,576. You're going to get it absolutely free. It's a total combined value of $6,573, but we're not done yet. Okay. We're also going to throw in one of the most powerful transformational programs we've ever created. This is called the Identity by Design Hypnotherapy Home Study Course. One of the things a lot of you were asking in the chat was, can I use this to change my life? Can I use this to help myself? This is how you do it. This is the program that we teach people to go in and systematically restructure the building blocks of personality and identity. It's going to teach you how to unlock the power of your subconscious mind to release all the negative emotions you didn't even know you had, how to hypnotize anyone, anytime, for any reason, how to remove the blocks and limiting beliefs buried in your unconscious, how to find and remove hidden negativity, how to clear up issues that just don't seem to go away, how to change the crappy voice inside your head so that it builds you up instead of tearing you down, how to resolve the negativity from your past so that when you look back on the past, you only see it in ways, and you only remember it in ways that make your life better. And finally, we're going to teach you how to install the traits, qualities, and characteristics of people you truly admire and want to be like, all at the same time. This is one of the most powerful transformational programs we've ever created, and it has literally changed the lives of tens of thousands of people all over the world. And this is designed to help you when you start unpacking your face, to give you the tools that you need to transform those negative emotions and recreate yourself in the form of the person you want to be, instead of the person society, culture, education conspired to make you. Okay. And when you apply this for other people, you can now develop a powerful income stream for yourself, helping other people take their lives to the next level. It's a $1,597 value. We're going to give this to you absolutely free as well. If you did all the numbers up to this point, you'd be looking at $8,170, but we're not stopping with just Identity by Design. We're also going to include one of my favorite programs. Once again, this is called People Reading for Fun and Profit. Whereas face reading is all about what you see in a person's face and the shape of their head, People Reading for Fun and Profit is all about what the rest of the body is doing. What are they doing with their hands? What are they doing with their posture? What are they doing with their leans and their foot orientation, their gestures? How do all these things come together to form a more comprehensive profile? And it leads you into what we call active profiling. Now, this is going to tell you what people are thinking and feeling and doing in the moment. When you look at their face and you do the passive profiling, you see their history. You see what a lifetime of micro expressions, a lifetime of behaviors, right? The result of the way they've been living. When you're using people reading skills, you're looking at what they're doing in the moment. How are they coming across? What are they trying to hide from you? What are they not trying to hide from you? What do they want you to perceive versus what are they trying to move you away from? These are all things that People Reading for Fun and Profit will help you to uncover. It'll help you understand the body language of attraction and what it's not, to detect lies and other deceptive behaviors, to influence people without words. This is really a powerful, powerful piece, because so much of the influence that you wield is actually based on what you don't say, but what you do with your body. Right? How to project charm and confidence and charisma on command. How to understand women better if you're a guy. How to understand men better if you're a woman. How to dress for success. There are 7 different levels of social status, and the dress level that you embody creates tremendous amounts of power and authority in the people around you. We're going to, in this particular course, we go through those 6 or 7 levels so that you know exactly how to dress to impress the people, not necessarily what kind of, what colors you should wear or things like that, but just knowing what's the status difference between a pair of jeans and a pair of khakis, right? What's the status difference between a tuxedo and a 3-piece business suit? Where do they fall in relation to one another? Which one trumps the other, right? What's appropriate versus not appropriate? That's what the levels of dress are about. how to eliminate behaviors that weaken your influence, and how to close more deals and get more sales and dates, right? It's very powerful. It's one of the coolest courses we've gotten. It's been one of our most popular. We're going to throw this in. It's a $1,497 value. It's yours absolutely free. The total combined value is $9,677. But as you can probably guess, to quote Ron Popeil, but wait, there's more, right? Let's review what we've got so far, though. We got the Secrets of Face Reading Home Study course. It's valued at $1,997. We've got the Speed Profiling Defense Against the Dark Arts, Protect Yourself Against the Bad Guys home study course. It's a $4,576 value. We're going to give that to you absolutely free. We're going to throw in the Identity by Design Hypnotherapy home study course. This, again, is going to allow you to go in and fix the stuff you find, to get rid of the grief and the bitterness and the anger and the resentment and all the other things we're going to talk about in part 3 of this webinar. If you see it on your face, you can get rid of it with this course. If you see it on other people's faces and they actually want your help, you can help them to get rid of that stuff too. That's what's so cool about the integration of all these technologies. Not only can you spot it, but you can help fix it. It's amazing. Okay. We're going to throw in the People Reading for Fun and Profit 2-day intensive, absolutely free. It's a $1,497 value. If you look at everything, you're looking at a total combined value. If you were to go to our website, davidsnydernlp.com, and try to buy this individually, you'd be looking at a total of $9,667. But we're not stopping there. For those of you who are truly committed to taking your life to the next level, who want to be able to read people and actually make a difference in your life and the lives of others, we want to give you the best deal humanly possible. So you're not going to have to pay $9,667. I wouldn't even dream of doing that to you, right? I'm not even going to charge you $6,497, nor am I going to charge you $5,397. I'm not even going to charge you $3,397, although you can see now that it's probably worth a whole lot more than $3,397, right? I'm not going to charge you that much either. Why? Because I want you to make a change. I want you to level your life up. I want you to have access to these skills. So you're not even going to have to pay $2,397. Not at all. For those of you who are serious, and only the ones who are serious, who want to take their life to the next level, gain access to these tools and a whole lot more, you can get it all for a low one-time investment of just $1,497, or if you need to, you can break that up into 4 easy installments of just $397 each. That's right. Just $1,497 gets you everything that I've just talked about. It also and if you need a little extra help, my amazing administrative goddess, Stephanie, can break that up into 4 easy installments of just $397 each. All you got to do to get yours is go to www.davidsnydernlp.com/face, FACE, davidsnydernlp.com/face. Click the link to reserve your spot, www.davidsnydernlp.com/face. Now, some of you may be saying, well, David, wait a minute. I mean, this is a cool value. This is awesome stuff. I love what you're learning, but how do I know this will work for me? How do I know that this is going to be, worth my investment? It's real simple. You have nothing to risk. Take the course now. Use it for 60 days. If at the end of 60 days, you're not on the fast track to understanding people better, clearing up your shit, helping them clear up the shit of other people, if you're not able to get snapshots and instant profiles of people's personality and temperament, if you're not attracting more success as a byproduct of this, and if you're not manifesting your dreams and feeling more secure and confident or powerful in your ability to understand people and yourself, to stay safe, to detect lies, to know who to trust and who you can't, if you're not on the fast track to winning any social encounter, being the irresistible in the center of attention, like I said you would be, pick up the phone, give me a call, or my administrative goddess, Stephanie, send us an email. We'll give you a full refund. If after 60 days, you're not getting the value we're talking about, you get all your money back, right? If it's not working for you, we don't want you. We don't want your tuition. And we want you to find something that works better for you. But I guarantee you, we've undersold and we've underpromoted what these things are going to do for you. Don't believe me? Talk to the veterans of Planet David who are certified in face reading, who went to the expo last week and just blew people away. The people who are at home, who've done these webinars and who've spent time in Planet David. This will change your life in a way no other set of skills ever could. It's powerful, and you absolutely have nothing to risk. If you're not 100% satisfied, will refund every single dime. All you got to do to grab yours now before they're all gone is go to www.davidsnydernlp.com/face. It's www.davidsnydernlp.com/FACE. Grab yours right now before they're gone. Now, for those of you who are action takers, for those of you who want to take your life to the next level, I always try to reward people who are willing to step up and commit to making a change. So for those of you who are rapid action takers, I'm going to throw in some other amazing free bonuses for you. If you grab your course before I log off the webinar today, now these courses, the things I'm about to share with you are only good until I log off the webinar. When I go away, so do these bonuses. But if you grab your course now, before I log off the webinar, March 8th, 2022 at 11:59 p.m., I'm going to give you the following fast action bonuses. These will take your experience and your ability to do this to an entirely new level. You won't believe what your life is going to be like after this. First and foremost, I told you, and one of the things that kept coming up in our discussions earlier was, do we need practice? Do we need practice? How can we practice? Is this very practice intensive? And the answer is yes, 100%. So what we've done is we've given you the one thing that you said you wanted. We're giving you right here the opportunity to practice this stuff and anything else you want to learn in Planet David for a full 3 months. This is the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Practice Group and Archive. The NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Practice Group and Archive has been the longest running self-help practice group in the NLP and hypnosis world that I know of. It's been running nonstop since October of 2010. On the third Saturday of every month, we get together and I literally go around the room and say, John, what do you want to learn? Seth, what do you want to learn? Jeffrey, what do you want to learn? James, what do you want to learn? Heidi, what do you want to learn? Jessica, what do you want to learn? Dharmendra, what do you want to learn? And I literally write those things on the board. I step back, I look at where all those things meet and interconnect. I create a lesson plan on the spot. And for the next 3 to 6 hours, I drill you on those skills until you can do them in your sleep. And face reading is one of the things that is absolutely on the agenda for those trainings. We've done that every single Saturday, every third Saturday of the month, every month for the last 12, going on 12 years now. Okay. You're going to get a 3-month trial of this program. You come in on the third Saturday of every month. I'm going to go around the room. I'm going to find out what it is you want to learn, what you want to know about. I'm going to incorporate what you want to know about into the lesson plan. And we're going to do those drills on the spot until you can do them in your sleep. You will not get a certificate from the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program. What you will get is a skill set, the ability to go out and do these things on demand, anytime, anywhere, under any circumstance, for any reason. But that's not even the best part. As cool as that is, you're also going to meet hundreds of people just like you, all who want to learn and practice and get better. And so many people form practice groups outside of the regular meeting. There's at least 3 or 4 a week that I know of from people in our group running independent practice groups. Christine Sutton runs one, Esty runs one, Holly Bigelow runs one. Every now and then, Heather runs one. There's a lot. I run them. You know, people get together all the time and practice. And that's one of the beautiful things about Planet David is that you have support. You have people who actually want to do the things you want to do. And so you have people to do them with, and you don't feel like a weirdo talking about this stuff. Now, if that wasn't enough, we're also going to give you unlimited access to the 11-year video archive. Yes, 11-year video archive. We have videotaped every single training session since October of 2010. And we have archived that video footage in a space on our Facebook groups, in our private YouTube channel, on some of our websites. You will have complete access during your 90-day trial to the entire 11-year archive. Stuff that has never seen the light of day on YouTube, has never been featured in a product. And it covers anything you can imagine, from face reading to therapy, to regression, to law of attraction, advanced energy, psychic self-defense, neuro-linguistic programming, language patterns, dating, attraction, marketing, you name it. If it has something to do with the mind and the body, energy and spirit, it's probably in there, right? And you get to binge watch all that content to your heart's content for a full 90 days. If after 90 days, you decide you want to stay, we'll show you how to do that. If after 90 days, you decided you're going to take your skills and go out into the world and make your way on your own, it's not a problem, right? This is yours absolutely free. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give it to you free. This one bonus can make all the difference in your life, but don't take my word for it. Talk to the people in the chats next to you, the veterans of Planet David, the people who actually come to the AMAs and the masterminds, who actually are able to do the drills and get the skills, right? It's a total value so far. If we look at what we've got, it's $11,664. But we're not going to stop there. For those of you who grab your package now, we're also going to include face reading level 2. This is the conclusion to the face reading level 1 program, and it picks up where face reading 1 left off. It shows you and it goes back over some of the features that were not covered in the level 1 class. It goes deeper into aspects that were covered in level 1, and then it shows you other sides and aspects of the face that are largely not as important until you have a basic understanding of how to read face shapes and things of that nature. This picks up and fills in all the gaps, shows you how to create a full and complete personality profile of a person. Again, in as little as 90 seconds, you literally go from the forehead or the hairline all the way down to the chin line. You can look at the profiles. You can see how things work together and create a much more comprehensive personality assessment of the people. You can also learn how to look at traumas. You can learn how to look at histories in the face, things of that nature. Again, it's focused on personality and temperament, but it lays the foundation for even more advanced training. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give this to you absolutely free. So if you look at everything we've talked about so far, if you add up all the numbers, it's $13,661 of amazing material, things that are going to absolutely transform your life if you actually get off your butt and use them. I'm good at what I do. I love the things I do, but I can't multiply zeros. If all this stuff is going to sit on your hard drive or in your bookshelf and collect dust, don't click the link, right? But if you actually want to use this material to get out there and make some powerful changes and transformations, click that link right now because you deserve it, right? You're the people I want to help. We've never released this much to the public. So again, this is one of the more rare courses that you'll get, but we're going to give it to you as a free bonus, okay? So finally, for the next 25 people to grab this course right now today, for those of you who are really serious about becoming an excellent master of face reading, we're going to do the one thing that makes all the difference in the world. We are going to give you a free VIP bonus ticket to our next Face Reading Live Certification Bootcamp, April 13th through the 15th, 2023 in Dallas, Texas. This course is going to cover all of the classical Chinese Jing traits and Jing training that I got when I originally trained with my teacher, Lillian Bridges. We're going to talk about trauma assessment. We're going to talk about blockages to energy. We're going to talk about risk-taking behaviors. We're going to talk about how to read people's personality and profile by the markings on their face. We're going to talk about the emotion map. We're going to talk about decision-making strategies. We're going to talk about public versus private. We're going to talk about things we've never talked about in any of the other face reading courses because they're more to do with classical Chinese face reading than they are with personality profiling. So for those of you who want the stuff I was taught, the way I was taught it, I invite you to grab your package now. Join us in Dallas, April 13th through the 15th. We'll teach you how to instantly read people's personality, but also their constitution, lifestyle, and temperament. We'll show you how to look at a person's birth history, and you can actually look at a person's ear and figure out when their siblings were born. You'll be able to look at traumas they had when they were children. There's so much to what's going on here. I can't even begin to talk about all the things that you'll be learning. Okay, but you'll understand how people think and feel and behave. You'll be able to measure their sexual romantic compatibility, how their current state of physical and mental health actually is. You can actually look at their face and diagnose the state of their organs. If you're someone who's qualified, in scope of practice, do that. You can do it without the scope of practice, but you can't actually pronounce a diagnosis, if that makes any kind of sense. So we'll tell you what you can and can't do in terms of legalities, how to uncover and resolve forgotten trauma, stuff they didn't even know they had. You will literally see, as a byproduct of this training, faces changing right in front of you as you help them unpack the markings of their face and resolve them by reframing them and helping them vent those emotional charges. It's like science fiction, but it's literal magic. Okay. You'll be able to know how people think and feel and make decisions. So much more. It's a live event, 3 days in Dallas, Texas with me, April 13th through the 15th. It's a $2,750 value. We're going to give this to you absolutely free. Okay. This is the one thing that you could always take to the bank and Planet David, is that if you want a certification from me, you got to put your ass in the chair. You got to get your butt in the seat and you got to do the drills and get the skills, right? You can buy all the video products you want, but if you want a certification, you got to prove to me you can do this. And that's how you do it right there. That free ticket right there is your golden ticket to getting the life you want the way that you want. All you got to do is click that link. You get that VIP super ticket, and I'll see you in Dallas and at the next mastermind, which is coming up very, very soon. Total value, if you were to try to buy all these things individually, is $16,411. But we're not going to charge you that. You're not going to have to pay that. You can get the entire Secrets of Face Reading Home Study Program, $1,997 value, plus Defense Against the Dark Arts, $4,576 value. We're going to give that to you free. Identity by Design Home Study Course, $1,597 value. We're going to give it to you free. We're going to give you the People Reading for Fun and Profit Home Study Course, $1,497 value. We're going to give it to you for free. You're going to get the NLP Mastermind Mentoring Program and Archive, $1,997. We're going to give it to you for free. We're going to give you Face Reading for Fun and Profit Level 2, $1,997 free. And finally, Face Reading for Fun and Profit, Classical Face Reading, 3-day certification boot camp. It's a $2,750 value, April 13th through the 15th, live in Dallas, Texas. We're going to give that to you free. Now, let me explain a little bit about our VIP ticket program so you can understand this. Let's say something comes up at the last minute and you can't use that ticket. All you got to do is pick up the phone, let Stephanie know. We'll move you to another training. Next time we do this face reading class, you'll get a front row seat. Let's say you don't think you can come to the training and the training sells out, which is gonna, right? But at the last minute, your schedule frees up and you can make the event. All you got to do is pick up the phone, let Stephanie know. We'll make a seat for you because you have a VIP ticket. VIP means very important person. You're important to us. So even if that training is sold out and you can't come to the last minute, we will make a seat for you. Okay. Let's say in another year, we raise the price. You have a price guarantee. You will never pay more for your training, right? That ticket is yours until you use it. If you have somebody else who you think can use this ticket more than you can gift that ticket to them. Okay. It does not expire. If it takes you 5 years to come to an event with this ticket, that ticket is still good 5 years from now. Okay. There's a lot behind these VIP tickets. They're worth their weight in gold, truly, right? If you want to get good, if you want to become the master face reader you deserve to be, if you want to have the ability to move through the world and understand yourself and the people around you from a much higher place, a more enlightened perspective, all you got to do is click the link, www.davidsnydernlp.com/face. You can get it all. It's a $16,411 value. You get it all for one low installment of just $14.97. If you need to, break it up into 4 easy installments of $397 each, and you're glowing, you're golden. Just click that link, www.davidsnydernlp.com/face. One more time with feeling, click the link, www.davidsnydernlp.com/face. That being said, we're going to take a 5-minute break or a 7-minute break. While you guys do that, when we come back, we're going to pick up where we left off with the map of the face. Okay. And what was it? And we'll go deeper into the things you want to know specifically about. We'll answer any of the questions that you have, and we'll go from there. All right. I will see you very, very shortly. All right, guys. So we've got a few minutes, and I see a lot of questions. So while you're clicking those links, and we got a few minutes left in our break, I'm going to go ahead and answer any questions that you have. Go ahead and type them in chat, and we'll go from there. Can you guys hear me okay? If you can hear me, type it in the chat. Cool. All right. So while we're on our break, if you guys have any questions, I can answer those before we get back to the main content of the webinar. Looks like people are clicking them links, getting an echo. Okay, I'll try to. There is an echo. Oh no. Wonder what's going on with that. Wonder if it's because I clicked the mute button. All right. You guys have any questions about an echo to the extreme, echo technique to the extreme, John is saying? Well, maybe. All right. I'm not sure what's going on there. Let's try with unshare, start video, share screen. Let's try that. Okay. So is there still an echo? So Nancy's asking, lines across the whole forehead. Lines that extend across the forehead usually indicate things that happened in your 20s to 30s, or their teens to 20s, and they usually are about life lessons. And so I was taught that when the line completes, I'll do this here. I was taught that when the line completes itself, that indicates a life lesson that you've finished processing. When the line is broken, so like maybe it goes this way and then there's a gap and then it starts again, it tends to indicate a lesson that you're still in the process of mining for the gold, so to speak, right? So when you come to the Jing class in Dallas, we're going to talk a lot about Jing blockages, trauma blockages, emotional blockages. The Jing training, which is really the very first course I ever took, was really all about looking at somebody and really extrapolating their lifestyle and constitution. What's really going on with them on a deep physiological, what they call the Jing level. And so I've got two basic silos of face reading that I teach. One is the classic that I'm teaching you now. NoF, it's not necessarily the liver. In fact, you usually see the health of the liver either in the temple or the eyebrow bone itself, and the eyebrows and the eyes. Okay, but we'll cover those. Those are the things we'll absolutely be going deep dive into in the Dallas training in April. Okay, let me see what else is in the chat here. Juliana, can you hear us now? Oh, Juliana says sound is fine. So Kate is saying, I understand using their learning method, but to see one's pain. Oh yes. Well, again, when we pick up back in phase 3, which we're going to do in about a minute, we're going to show you exactly where to look on the face. And by the way, a lot of what I've shown you so far is actually are forms of pain that people are carrying around locked inside of them. It's pain that they have to a large degree stuffed and dissociated and are in denial of. And those are the things that actually lead to disease, right? Like I said before, my specialty for 15 years was physiological illness caused by repressed emotions, psychosomatic, psycho-emotional illness. The studies all show that 99% of all chronic illness is related to some early memory-based event. It's called the ACE study. You can type the adverse reaction to childhood experience. Adverse childhood experiences study is what it's called. You start by actually noticing the feature
discussing the feature and watching their Shen. You watch their spirit. We'll talk about that a little bit in part 3. Okay. So one of the ways that I used to call face reading Chinese vibrational psychotherapy, largely because one of the natural byproducts of talking about facial features is people start actually processing their emotions. And so, but the problem, my biggest frustration when working with Lillian was that the entire class was nothing but diagnosis, right? For anything that was really deep or hardcore, she'd always tell her students, refer them out to a social worker or a psychotherapist or whatever. Well, I'm a therapist by nature. And so to talk about stuff for 5 straight days drove me insane. So I started looking at all the things that we knew how to do to fix this stuff, combine it with all the ways we know to diagnose and get to and uncover this stuff. And we created a hybrid program where people could not only see what's going on, we could also fix it. And so that's what we do. We have all these different techniques, and that's why we put this program together the way we did. That's why you've got the profiling tactics from Defense Against the Dark Arts and People Reading for Fun and Profit. But you also have the alchemical practices, the emotional and physiological clearing techniques in Identity by Design, right? Because we want you to be able to use the material that you learn to read and understand people, but we want you to actually be able to do something about it. That was the biggest frustration, is you got all this information, you know all these things, but you can't do anything about it. And so how do we fill in those gaps? How do we make that more comprehensive? And that's the package that we've put together for you. And that's part of what we're going to be doing in the mastermind groups that you're going to be involved in, as well as the actual live face reading courses. Right. So that being said, let's get back to part 3 of our webinar. Right. Let me go ahead and redo my sharing. Okay, that's 1. And 2. Okay. All right. So let's go back to the face now. Let me make this a little bit bigger so I can see it. So one of the things I want you to start to, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Hold on a second. So you can tell this is not pre-recorded because I'm screwing this PowerPoint up left and right. One of the things I want you guys to start paying attention to when you start looking at people's faces is their chin. One of the things that the chin is related to the water element or the kidney element. And a lot of times what you'll see is now in Lillian's diagram here, she has this as like little lines. I see this more like if you've ever seen an orange peel, like the little dots in an orange peel. When you see someone with these little dimples, lots of little dimples over the chin, you're looking at somebody who's repressed a lot of fear, right? If they have this particular technique and very small ears compared to the size of their head, now you're probably looking at somebody who not only have they repressed a lot of fear, they also spent a lot of time and energy being little daredevils when they were younger, proving they weren't afraid, right? The ears and the chin are analogous to the water element. And so there are certain emotions connected to the water. We'll cover those things in Dallas at the 3-day. But these are things I want you to be aware of, is that when you see people who have these natural these dimples without actually distorting their face, they've got a lot of repressed fear. And we need to find ways to help them clear that fear out. Okay. Next thing I want you guys to look at or to pay attention to is going to be, this is one of the lines that people, F Goldbuster saying, what if you're just petite? Petiteness has nothing to do with it. Petiteness has nothing to do with it. This is about the markings in the skin itself, right? One of the lines that people love to have are these little lines that run from the ala nasal down the side. The Chinese, like the technical term for these was called, when I was taught, was fa ling. But Lillian always referred to them as purpose lines. Now, most ladies over 50 are doing anything they can to not have these lines, but these are actually lines you want to have. The Chinese said if you hit the age of 50 and you don't have purpose lines, you're not doing what you came here to do, right? These lines indicate a person who is actually fulfilling their mission in this life, or someone who is on the fast track to their golden path, right? So we want these lines to be long and defined. Now, again, we can divide this into public versus private by saying, okay, if the line is deeper on the right side of the face, then they're obviously much more on track in their public life. If the line is deeper on the left side of their face, we can say that they're much more on track in their personal life, right? Their home life, the things that they're doing that aren't necessarily work or public related. If they're balanced, we can say that they're balanced, right? If the person doesn't have very strong defined lines, we want to figure out, we want to kind of start to help them figure out how to figure out what their Ming is, or their golden path. Okay. The next line we're going to talk about is what we call auditory intuition. And when we look at auditory intuition, let me reverse this a little bit and get a smaller line here. I'm going to actually go to a different picture to show this to you. The auditory intuition line is like a set of gills. It's like a little set of lines right in front of the ear. Let me go to a different picture to show you this from the side. Nope. Here we go. Okay. So one of the things you'll learn about when you come to the class in Dallas is we'll start looking at age markings on the ears. And the marking we're looking at right now is called auditory intuition. And it can be seen as a set of lines, almost like little gills, little wrinkles, right in front of the ear, right? Now, people with this kind of a marking, these people usually grew up in a situation or circumstance where they had to pay very, very close attention to what was being said around them and what they said to other people. This actually begins as a form of auditory hypervigilance, in that the person is in such a dangerous environment that if they say the wrong thing to the wrong person at the wrong time, they could get an ass whooping that, would not be good for them, right? Lillian used to say, Lillian had this, I have this. What happens over time is this becomes like a superpower, in that people with this ability often become very good at lie detection. They are able to hear the subtext and the intentions within what people say. Lillian said they'd have good bullshit detectors. These people are able to just parse language in a much more advanced way than the average human being, right? It could be a form of self-censorship for sure, but it was actually a form of self-preservation, where, like Lillian used to say, that she could tell what mood her ex-husband was in by the way he slammed the car door. That's how acute her hearing was. And so growing up in the environment in the household that I did, I often found myself trying to predict what to say, what not to say, but not just what to say and what not to say, but how to say it if it needed to be said, right? And so over time, this gives us the ability to really parse language and people's words and tonalities in a much more advanced way. And it becomes very, very useful later on if you're like a personal injury attorney, a social worker, an investigator of some kind, anybody who deals with people, right? But it doesn't start off as a superpower. It starts off more as a form of self-preservation or auditory hypervigilance. Now, what's interesting physiologically about this particular marking is that it falls over. Let me go back to our facial map. If you look at the face from the side, let me show this really quick. Here we go. This is a side of the face. You have meridians and energy meridians in the body that run down the side. Okay, and the two meridians that really run down in this area are the triple burner meridian and the gallbladder meridian. These markings tend to manifest right on the triple burner meridian. And part of the triple burner meridian's job is to manage water metabolism and heat in the body. So what happens many times is people with this auditory hypervigilance marking, they tend to have water metabolism issues, which means they often drink a lot. Now that in and of itself wouldn't be a big deal, but you all know that when you drink a lot, you tend to pee a lot, right? And the problem with that is that while you're putting in a lot of fluids because your body needs those fluids, you're peeing out a lot of electrolytes. And if your body doesn't have enough electrolytes, then weird things start to happen, like heart palpitations and tachycardia. So what you'll see a lot of times is people with these particular markings often have what they think are panic attacks, which are just their heart. They have these erratic heartbeats a lot of times. And if they just started actually supplementing with electrolytes, a lot of those palpitations and panic attacks would start to subside. So if you have these markings and you're prone to irregular heartbeats or rapid heartbeats, try supplementing electrolytes for a few days and see if that starts to balance out those quote panic attacks that you might be having. Okay, it's not a diagnosis; it's just a pattern that we can look at. Anybody have markings like this that has these manifestations? Eric is asking, do these physical features soften if the emotional issues are resolved? Yes. Very many times they do. Kate's asking, how do you deal with clients of different ages? Seniors just have more lines. Actually, one of the things that happens is as you start to clear these emotions, those wrinkles start to go away. One of the ladies that worked with Lillian for 20 some years, her name is Kelly. Lillian would put a picture of her 25 years ago when they first started working together and a picture of Kelly now. And Kelly looked a good 20 to 25 years older 25 years ago than she did there's not a wrinkle on the woman's face. She's got to be in her late 60s. And there's no wrinkles because she's done a lot of this clearing work. She's been doing this work. So a lot of the wrinkling we get from aging is not from aging. It's actually from the buildup of emotional toxins in the body. And when you start to clear these emotional toxins, the wrinkles and the markings go away. Those of you veterans in Planet David who are face readers, if you've seen faces change right in front of you as a byproduct of doing this training, type it's true in the chat so they can see it. They'd expect me to tell you all kinds of crazy shit. Talk to these people, right? It's insane. The first time Lillian said this to me, I literally yelled bullshit from across the auditorium, and then I actually saw it happen in real life. Okay. So Kate says, I understand using their learning method, but to see one's pain, oh, absolutely. Yeah, we can see it all. And that's actually one of the problems is once you start seeing stuff, it's kind of hard to not see it. So you have to kind of be ready for it. So let's talk about physical pain though, since we're on that subject. If you want to see people who are manifesting physical pain, if you look at, once again, we talked about the eyes earlier. We talked about the outer canthus, where the lines that go up to the eyebrow are joy lines. Lines that go past the eyebrow are mania lines. Lines that come down the face are sadness and sorrow and grief. They come from the outer canthus and they come down the side of the face. When you see a line that begins at the outer canthus, but it starts to migrate in towards the nose, now you're seeing a person who's wincing from physical pain. They either have had a lot of pain in the past that they haven't finished getting rid of, or they're in pain in the moment right then and there. So the physical pain that you'll see a lot of times will have these diagonal lines moving towards the center of the face as opposed to down the periphery of the face, if that makes any kind of sense. Okay. Another line you want to look at, and this goes back to health again, is if you look at the, let's go back to my diagram of the ear. If you look at the earlobe, right? If you look at the earlobe and you see little wrinkles, sometimes one, sometimes two, every now and then you'll see someone with three. This indicates somebody with blood pressure irregularities. Blood pressure irregularities. Now, this does not mean that they're going to have a heart attack. It does not mean they have high blood pressure. It does not mean they have low blood pressure. It means they have erratic blood pressure. Sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low, sometimes it spikes, sometimes it crashes, right? One of the side effects of this is these people have a hyper, let me put a text box in here. They have a hyperreactiveness to shock. So like, let's say, for example, I'm walking down the hallway, right? And somebody comes around the corner and startles me, right? On an average person might have a shock level of 5 or 6. Someone with a marking like this might jump to it an 8 or 9 and pass out from fright. They have an exaggerated response to shock, right? So they have, not only do they have erratic blood pressure that's up and down, they have a hyper responsiveness to surprise, right? So if you have these markings, I have these markings actually, and I had to train myself to be less reactive. It's just something to be aware of. What about, Faye is asking about lines from the nose out. We're actually going to cover that very, very shortly, so stick with us, okay? Really, really quick, just so we stay on track, and because I want everybody to really take advantage of this, let's go ahead and review the package we put together for you. And it goes like this, and a 1 and a 2. There we go. All right. So for those of you who are on the fence up till now, this is our second call for this. You get the Secrets of Face Reading home study course for what's $1,997 value and a ton of free bonuses. We're going to give you the Defense Against the Dark Arts home study course valued at $4,576. This is a game changer, guys. We're going to give it to you absolutely free because we want you to be ready. We want you to have not only the techniques to predict and assess, but the techniques to stop and counter the bad guys of the world. We want to give you the tools to change and make change. We're going to give you the Identity by Design home study course so you can change what you find and help people free and help you free yourself and others from emotional and physical pain and trauma. It's a $1,597 value. We're going to give it to you absolutely free. We're going to give you the People Reading for Fun and Profit home study course valued at $1,497 value. We're going to give that to you absolutely free. You're going to get the 3-month trial and the 11-year archive of the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give that to you absolutely free. You're going to get Face Reading for Fun and Profit Level 2 home study course, picking up where Level 1 leaves off. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give it to you free. And of course, you get the Face Reading Intensive Live VIP Certification Bootcamp in Dallas, Texas, April 13th through the 15th, 2023. It's a $2,750 value. Total package value, if you were to try and buy these things individually, which you can't, will be $16,411. You can get it all for one low investment of $14.97, or break that up into 4 easy installments of just $397 each. All you've got to do to get yours is go to www.davidsnydernlp.com/face. That's www.davidsnydernlp.com/FACE. Do it now, do it now, do it now before I log off, because then these fast action bonuses, which includes that super ticket, go away. And I don't want you to miss out on what could be the most powerful, life-changing experience that you've encountered so far. Okay. I really want you guys to be there. I want to hang out with you. I want to teach you. I want to watch your lives change as you get the skills and the abilities to make the world exactly what you want it to be, instead of the way the world programmed you to be the way you are. Okay. That being said, let's get back to our regularly scheduled program, so to speak. So let's see here. Share screen. And let's close that. And go back to okay, good. Goody goody gumdrops. All right, let's go back to reading the face. So what else can we look at? First and foremost, so we have these blood pressure irregularities. Now remember, if you have these lines, it doesn't mean you're going to have a heart attack. It just means you've got to spend a little bit more time developing emotional poise and calm. Okay, you see these manic or hyperactive lines up here. Be very careful with these people. You know, they can be extremely productive and powerful in their manic moments, but when they crash, everything tends to go to shit. So be very careful with that. So some people were asking about lines in the center of the face, and that's where we're going to go next. So everything I've talked to you about so far, with the exception of the humor line, is bilateral. It can be on the right side of the face. It can be on the left side of the face. The things that down the center, some can be bilateral, some are not. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to look at is what we call transformation lines. Every now and then, you're going to see a line that kind of angles up from the third eye or from the brow at about a 45-degree angle. We call these transformation lines. These lines generally indicate somebody who's gone through an intense spiritual transformation. They've gone through some kind of dark night of the soul that has given them an insight or an epiphany into life, the universe, and everything that has changed them on a characterological or identity level. When you have those spiritual moments, those spiritual epiphanies, you'll tend to mark with a diagonal line that emanates upward from the brow towards the hairline. Okay, this is one of the good lines to have. Now, every now and then in very advanced spiritual people, you'll see what look like little wings that come up. Okay, we call these Buddha wings. And so you people who do a lot of intense meditation, spiritual practices, things like that, you'll often see rows of these lines emanating up from the third eye. This indicates usually a very open third eye and someone who is very, very much in touch with their Shen or their spiritual level. Okay, Lillian used to say that in moments when the Dalai Lama was preaching or teaching, he would manifest these lines. But when he went back to being just the leader of Tibet, and he was doing the political side of things or being a guest on a talk show or something like that, these lines would actually fade a bit. So if you often see these in advanced meditators. One of the sets of lines you want to be very careful of, that you want to look for, is a double line between the eyes. This indicates irritation, annoyance, or impatience. But when I say that, it's not episodic. These are, for lack of a better word, chronic. These are chronic things. This person is constantly in a hurry, constantly irritable, and is usually on the verge of annoyance because things are taking too long, or there's too many I's to dot and T's to cross, yada, yada, yada. Juliana says, yes, that's me, right? I got these too. I am one of the most impatient motherfuckers on the planet, Juliana. That's why my stuff is so fast, because I don't have time for stuff that takes a long time, right? Eric says, are you familiar with pressure releases in the topic of tracking? Eric, I don't actually know what that means. Okay. Kenneth Kern is saying the earline is called the cardiac cleft by pathologists, often seen in heart attacks. Right, corroboration. Ken's a medical doctor. Is there any significance in dimples on your chin or cheeks? Yes, dimples represent what Lillian called extra fire. People with dimples and in their cheeks and chins are usually a little bit more outgoing. They're a little bit more charismatic, often quite mischievous, and they often like attention. So if they have dimples, they're going to be a little bit more charismatic, tend to be a little bit more on the creative side, right? And they like attention. Eric, I don't know what you mean when you say pressure releases in the topic of tracking. I don't know what that means. If you can elaborate on that, I might be able to give you more information. Right. Joe Warenka says, who do I contact to make payment arrangements? You reach out to Stephanie at nlppower.com, or you can call her directly at 858-282-4663. 858-282-4663. And if you do call her, please, please, please leave your contact information. So many people call up and they just hang up. If you call and you leave your contact information, you will qualify for the bonuses. But if you call up tomorrow and you haven't left your contact information, you don't qualify for the bonuses. We can't give you any of the fast action stuff. So by all means, if you know you want this, remember, you got nothing, you got no risk, right? It's a 60-day, 100% satisfaction guarantee. If it's not working for you, if it's not moving you in the direction you want to go, let us know. We'll refund your money. But right now, this is the last time I'm probably going to offer this for a very, very long time, because we don't have another face reading training coming up for a very, very long time. So I want you guys to take advantage of it. I want to meet you in Dallas. I want to get you on the fast track to becoming a force of change in your world. I want you to help a lot of people, starting with yourself. And I want you to move through the world, making their life everything you want it to be, and helping enough people get and become the person they want to be. Do that. Click one of those links. Go to davidsnydernlp.com/FACE, and let us help you help other people. Okay, that's what it's about. It's all about moving forward. All right. Art and Science of Tracking by Tom Brown, Similar of Reading Intention by Marx and the Floor. No, I'm not familiar with that particular book, Eric. I am familiar with Left of Bang and the CP Journal, which is all about tracking and profiling human behavior. But I'll have to look at the Art and Science of Tracking and see what's going on with that. Okay, let's see here. Has this been useful so far? Talk to me. Have you guys learned some cool stuff? Okay, Kim is asking, what method do you utilize for clearing extreme grief? I have about 5 or 6 of them, Kim, that we use. We can start with chair therapy, deathbed therapy. You can do what we call dry crying is a really powerful one. Magic frame, energy spinning, color breathing, all very, very powerful. We have 7 levels of regression. Very familiar with Robert Cialdini's work. And extremely useful in this context, in the context of face reading. Chris says lots of information to take in and try out. Cool, good. I just want to make sure that you guys are getting what you came for, right? Remember, you guys at the beginning, you said, what do you want to take away from this webinar? What do you want to be able to do as a byproduct of this training, right? I'm giving you the foundations. I'm closing the loops. I'm showing you how to take your skills to the next level if that's where you feel you need to go, right? Deathbed therapy is not necessarily inducing DMT. No, we're not killing people. Okay. It's part of the hypnotherapy program that you'll learn in level 2 regression. Okay. Let's see here. Let's go back to our face reading. And okay, so we talked about irritation and annoyance. Now, if you look at somebody, I see this much rarer. What I'm about to show you is a little bit more rare. Every now and then you look at somebody's face in the center, and you'll see 3 lines. When you see 3 lines like this, what you're seeing is somebody who's actually learned how to manage their irritation, annoyance, and impatience. That is not me. I'll be honest. I am one of the most impatient motherfuckers on the planet. But I think it works for me because, like I said, I don't have time for low percentage technique. If it doesn't yield a predictable, desirable result in the shortest amount of time possible, in the most consistent way possible, I throw it out. That's just how I do it. Totem Pole is saying, I'm interested in this kind of stuff. I have 2 lines between my eyebrows. The thing is, I'm mostly patient kind of person. I'm interested in what that says. Do you find yourself getting annoyed with people a lot? I'd have to see the lines, because it might not. Again, one of the things I want you to be. This isn't on the chart, but I will share this with you. If you have lines that start here, but actually start to travel down and around the curve of the eyebrow bone, what you're seeing here is actually somebody who is prone to worry. They tend to be a little bit more pensive, overthinking things, running scenarios in their head. So be very wary when you see people who have these lines at the center of the forehead. but they travel. They travel down and contour the inside of the eyebrow like this. Okay. Another thing you're going to see a lot, and again, I'm not trying to pick on people. I'm not trying to shame anybody when I say this, but one of the things you'll see a lot in people is people with a single line right down the center. Right? Some people, the line is really small. You know, it's like, you know, literally just a little line like that. Some people, though, that line is big and it's long, right? Yes, that's me. Worry too much. Thank you. You're welcome. Right. We call this particular marking either a suspended needle or a suspended sword. And this particular marking is extremely telling because what's happened in this person's life is that they've literally taken their energy, their wood energy, their liver energy, their anger, and they've cut it in half. This usually indicates anger between a father and a son, or between a child and whoever holds the dominant masculine role in that family. It can be from a father towards a son. It can be done from a son towards a father. And what happens in this particular marking is the person with the marking got angry, like really, really angry. And they expressed that anger. And as a byproduct of expressing that anger, this person got punished, right? They got put in jail. They got kicked out of school, kicked out of the house. They were punished so badly for expressing that anger that they made the unconscious decision that they were never going to get that angry again, that they were never going to let that energy come out to that degree ever again. And so they literally take like a little block and they just cut it off. And so what happens with this kind of a marking is these people tend to be really good at self-sabotage. They'll be really good at about certain things, and they'll get to a certain point in their life and they'll blow themselves up. They'll literally, get fired. They'll walk off the job. They'll lose interest in something that they're really, really good at and start something new from scratch. They'll get to a certain point and they'll reach that area where they have extra energy that could take them to even higher levels of success. But because that block is in place, they cut themselves off and wind up exercising themselves from that career path. It also tends to manifest as a desire to prove oneself. So you'll hear them talking about all the things that they've done, all the problems that they've solved. It'll come across as kind of a pseudo-narcissistic behavior, but what they're really trying to do is win a fight or an argument that they lost many, many years ago, and they haven't admitted their part in it yet. And so between the self-sabotage and the need to prove oneself, I've had people who have markings like this. They are excellent at so many things, and they get to a certain level of achievement, and all of a sudden, boom, they're gone. They find a way to leave, right? So one of the things that people with this marking, what they have to do is they have to go back and they have to revisit that anger that they've locked down, right? And they have to remove that. They have to forgive the people involved. They have to forgive themselves. They have to admit their role in it, because when they have this marking, they're in denial, right? And it will manifest as an inability to move forward in their life. So this is one of the markings. When I see this, I know that the person in front of me, as well as they're doing, isn't near their full potential yet. They're holding themselves back, right? And so you'll see this a lot. Okay, let's go back to the chart. In here. Okay, so another one that you're going to see that goes to boundaries are lines that start on the side of the nose, like so. Lillian used to call these disempowerment lines. I don't use that term. I call them appeasement lines. And the reason I use appeasement lines is because I think that actually explains the behavior more so than disempowerment. So let me explain the pathology of these lines. Just like the suspended sword or suspended needle up here, this person experienced a boundary violation. They experienced a boundary violation and they fought back. But when they fought back, the person they were fighting back against pushed back even harder. And rather than locking down their anger and vowing never to get that angry again, they lapsed into appeasement. They said, oh my God, they're so angry. Whatever you want, just don't hurt me. Just don't hit me. Just please don't punish me anymore. I'll do whatever you want. These people become appeasers. How many of you are familiar with the old 1970s sitcom All in the Family? Anybody? Okay. You guys remember Edith Bunker? Right? It's okay, Archie, whatever you want. I'll do it, whatever you want. Right? I guarantee you, if Edith Bunker were a real person, she'd have these lines like they were chiseled in stone on her face, because that's exactly what appeasement does. Appeasement says somebody violates my boundary. I push back, they push back harder, and I'd say, okay, whatever you want, just don't hit me again. So thinking about it like that. What kind of patients would you see this marking on? What do you think? Where do you think you would see it? Abuse, exactly. Any form of child abuse, any form of domestic abuse, spousal abuse, right? A lot of times, the other thing about this particular marking, and again, I'm working on a theory that certain kinds of predators are tapped into certain facial characteristics. One of the things that this indicates is somebody who has weak boundaries. How do I know that? Because of the appeasement, right? All trauma is based on boundary violation, right? So if somebody violates your boundaries and you fight back and you push them off, your boundaries are strong. But if somebody violates your boundaries, you push back, they push back harder, and you give them what they want, that's a weak boundary. That makes for somebody who has a high probability of being victimized in the future. Does that make sense? Okay. So and a lot of times, especially if you're a therapist, they will not volunteer the abuse stuff. If you're doing like hypnotherapy, like advanced regression or something like that, that's when you'll find it, right? But if you get somebody in the chair and you see these markings, there's boundary violations in there somewhere. There's people who have an inordinate amount of sway in this person's life that they're working very hard not to piss off. Does that make sense? Okay, very good. All right. So that concludes our map of the face. So before I turn you loose out into the world to go and read faces and take names, what other questions do you have for me that I can answer for you? Right. This would be the time to really kind of AMA with me. Ask me anything. You guys have any questions? So let's see. What is the most useful use of the lines? Contextually, I find that the emotional lines tell me about a person's life. What it gives me a direct insight into what emotions they're stuffing, what emotions they're expressing. When I look at the emotional lines on the public side versus the private side, it allows me to really know who they are behind closed doors, which I think is really one of the most powerful uses for face reading, because you can start to make predictions as to how they're going to respond in certain scenarios. What do lines across the forehead represent? Lines across the forehead represent lessons that are being life lessons that are being processed. Most commonly from 15 to 29. In the Dallas class, we're going to go through the age map of the face. You can actually track a person's trauma history from conception all the way up to about 120 years old, 125 years old on the face. John is asking, can an artificial program look at a face and map it like the grid line? I would imagine you could probably make all kinds. Yeah, we have facial recognition software that could easily do this, for sure. For sure. But it wouldn't have the same level of intuitiveness that comes from using this information. Again, there's a human element to this that you can't really duplicate with an AI yet. Benjamin Grateful is asking, how can I tell what the information is in a mark, but in a different form in the same place? Example, like what can it mean if there is a mole compared to an indent or a crease? Okay, indents and creases are almost always a sign of trauma. Moles are almost always a possibility of extra jing or a blockage in the meridian system. Okay. Benjamin is saying, I have a bump on my earlobes. It was trying to pierce my ears when I was young, but would that give me an overreaction to surprises? I don't know, Benjamin. Certainly any physiological changes we make to our body, things that we remove, have significant effects on the Jing level of the body, and it can significantly change our access to physical and emotional attributes. What's the first thing I look at on the face? For me, it's usually the Shen, which is the light behind the eyes. And then I look at the eyebrow and eyebrow ridge, primarily because when I look at the eyebrow ridge, I know how these people deal with authority. I know how these people deal with teamwork, how much of a more self-aggrandizing they're going to be versus more low-key or humble. But also the Shen tells me how closed off they are, how much trauma, how much open to suggestion or influence they might be. Kim, do your courses explain any verbal NLP techniques? I do a lot of phone interviews with no visuals. Oh yeah, my course, yeah. The face reading won't do that, but identity by design for sure will. Defense against the dark arts absolutely will. In fact, you'll get more in defense against the dark arts than probably any other course. Because it's 60% killer influence and the other 40% pure profiling. So for Kim, for what you want, the package is worth it just for the killer influence program. Okay. Seth says that, John, a live face reading class is your best bet. Benjamin says, it seems like internally I overreact to surprising things like random person coming up. It could have something to do with the earlobe, because again, the earlobe is actually corresponds to the head. So there may be some things going on there that are due to that particular bump. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Get out of the victim matrix. Yeah. And that's what identity, by the way, Goldbuster, that's what identity by design is about. Identity by design is exactly what you would put somebody with these appeasement lines through, because it helps you to rebuild their boundaries, their sense of self, their sense of deservingness, the internal dialogue that they have, the default driver states that they go through. It targets every single piece of a person's identity. So you can use it to shore up a person's boundaries really, really powerful. That's why we included it in the package, right? When I was going through, it was really frustrating for me as a learning face reading. I love my teacher and I miss her to this day. But one of the frustrating things for me was I learned how to read all this stuff, but she never taught us anything on how to. I knew how to fix it, thank God, but nobody else in the class did. So after about the day 3 of the 5-day training, I just started grabbing people and pulling them off to the side and fixing their shit because I couldn't take it anymore. You know, so when I put this together, I said, okay, how can we create a program that gives these people the absolute biggest bang for their buck, that not only gives them the ability to read people and understand them, but to transform. And that's what the package is that you've got in front of you, you know. And again, if you need extra help, reach out to Stephanie, and she will absolutely help you with payment plans and things of that nature. We want you to have this information, but we have to make it fair. Okay. Let's see here. Last couple rounds. CK Rishi says face reading success rate. Oh, we're in the high 90s. Face readers, if you see Rashid's comment, he wants to know what the success rate. What is your hit rate when you do face reading? Right. Type in your hit rates for Rashid so he can see what we're talking about. Because you expect me to say it's 100%. It's not about me. It's about my students, really. What can my students do? Right. All right. That being said, let me just go ahead and give you guys one last call for this. For those of you who have been on the fence maybe, or are ready to take your lives to the next level, who want to come out to Dallas and hang and learn this stuff firsthand. Let's go ahead and one more thing here. Again, so this is the last call. Secrets of Face Reading Home Study course is going to give you the entire level 1 face reading for fun and profit personality and temperament assessment process. Teaches you both the intuitive and the systematic approach to assessing personality and temperament in as little as 90 seconds. It's a $1,997 value. We're also going to include the Ultimate Influence and Persuasion Counter Manipulation Home Study course, the Defense Against the Dark Arts. It's a $4,576 value. We're going to give that to you absolutely free. We're going to give you the Real World Hypnosis Identity by Design Home Study course. It's a $1,597 value. Not only will you be able to use this to fix the things you find on your face and others, you can actually use this as an income stream for your business. If you're in the helping professions, you will have some of the most powerful transformational tools on the planet to help people heal physically, mentally, and emotionally. We're going to give this to you free because we want you to be ready, right? We're going to give you the People Reading for Fun and Profit program. It's a $1,497 value, so you can read all the other nonverbal things going on in another person. We're going to give you a 3-month trial membership to the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program, plus the 11-year video archive. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give that to you absolutely free. And we're going to give you that free VIP ticket to the Face Reading Jing Level Classic Face Reading Home Study Live Intensive in Dallas, Texas, April 13th through the 15th. It's a $2,750 value, right along with Face Reading Level 2, which is a $1,997 value. If you do the math, the total package value is $16,411. You can get it all for one low investment of $1,497, or 4 easy installments of $397 each. All you got to do is click the link right now. Go to www.davidsnydernlp.com/face, www.davidsnydernlp.com/FACE. Click the link, click the link, click the link now so that we can all hang out in Dallas and you can take your life to the next level. That's my mission in this world, to end suffering, to show people what's possible, and give people the tools they absolutely need to get the life they want the way they want it. Okay. That being said, I want to thank you all for hanging out with me. I hope you guys have had a good time. I would be curious what you guys' top takeaways are. What are the top 2 or 3 things that you've learned in this webinar that you can take out into the world and start using right away? I'm curious about that. Oh, the orders are pouring in, the last minute call. Get it while you can. Bonnie says, is it Bonnie or Banny? Dana says, thank you for this webinar. Really appreciate the work you do, the information you share. Well, again, pay it forward, right? We make the world a better place, one person at a time, starting with ourselves. You know, they say a rising tide raises all ships. Let's be that tide. Let's be the people who can move through the world, making a difference by being different, getting the life you want the way that you want it. That being said, on behalf of the NLP Power crew, Seth and Stephanie and Brandon, Holly, if you're out there. I want to thank you all for spending some time with me, for coming out, doing the drills and getting the skills. If you have questions that I did not see or did not answer, you can absolutely type your name in the chat or in the comment section when this YouTube video goes live. And I will go ahead and answer your questions as best I can. In the words of the immortal Carol Burnett, I'm so glad we had this time together just to have a laugh or sing a song. Seems we just got started, and before you know it, comes the time we have to say so long. Good night, my friends. I'll get the hang of this heart thing someday. Good night. God bless. Make your life everything you want it to be, starting now. Go to davidsnetherNLP.com/face, and we'll see you next time. Take care.